Poison. I worked in an urgent care as a medical assistant, and from the very beginning, this place made me feel off. The rules were different than usual urgent cares. The providers were nice enough, which was the upside. The management, however, were questionable. One day, we had a patient who needed immediate care. He came to see us with a wound on his left leg. The wound was big and definitely needed stitches. I roomed that patient, took his vitals, and after documenting the triage, I left the room so the provider could see him. In this clinic, there was usually a team of 4 of us, working simultaneously with one provider. Because of this, we rotated so everyone could step in for whatever the physician needed. In case you were busy rooming another patient, another could step in with an overlapping task. That particular day, it was 3 of us. The other MA who works regularly in that clinic called in sick, so the clinic sent a replacement from the float pool. The float pool is filled with both CNA, RN, and MA workers. It's up to the clinic to determine the appropriate worker to fill in for the day. Narrator note, a ghost is a walk-in patient that is not part of the schedule originally, but is worked into it. That day, we had 3 regular patients who made appointments to be seen at urgent care, but they came in early. Around the same time came a ghost patient who came in sick and the trauma patient who came in with the laceration. Safe to say, we were very busy all of a sudden. The 2 regular workers and I were already obligated to the patients with appointments, so I was chosen to room the trauma patient as top priority before going to see my scheduled patient. The provider will typically see traumas first, and while they're being prepped, will go visit the regulars who are typically given 15-minute appointments since they don't always have serious cases and can be dealt with quickly. The ghost patient can be seen within relatively the same amount of time and can be determined to escalate or prescribe medication to take home before he loops back around to the trauma, where the MA should have the room set up, trays sterilized and prepared, and the wound cleaned and covered for operation. In this urgent care, the MAs work as a team to cover each other, rotate and cover our bases. So when the new float Nikki, as we will call her, approached me to ask to take over rooming the trauma patient so I could go room my appointed regular, I agreed and thought nothing of it. When the provider was finally ready to start seeing patients, I saw him speaking with Nikki. He told her he assessed the wound and would be back around to give the patient stitches. He went off to go see other patients. She was left with the task of cleaning the wound, preparing the suture tray, prep the Hebe cleanse, and to also add bacitracin to the tray, something she should already know how to do. All of this has to be prepared so the provider can do the procedure, especially in a timely manner. If a laceration isn't taken care of in a timely manner, it can no longer get sutured and will start to heal in a very ugly way. To make sure the wound is being taken care of properly, especially by someone new, I went to check on the patient and everything seemed okay at first. As I was leaving the room, I overheard the new float asking the physician how much Hebe cleanse she should give the patient. The physician, who was ready to go see the next patient that I triaged, told her, I usually just use 15 milliliters to clean the wound. Pretty straightforward, right? I asked if she needed help just in case, and she shooed me off, telling me she can handle it. So I watched from afar, ready to step in if needed, and I watched as she grabbed a suture kit, found the bacitracin, which is, side note, that is the hospital equivalent to Neosporin, so it can be applied after the sutures are done. I started to leave, to document my last triage, and I saw her go into the med room, where some of the supplies we used are stored. She found the Hebe cleanse, put 15 milliliters in a cup, and went back over to the patient. Narrator note, Hebe cleanse is an antiseptic soap, so it's absolutely not for oral consumption. I decided to check in on the trauma patient again after I was done with my documentation. That is when I noticed the wound was still not cleaned with Nikki nowhere in sight, and I saw the small cup we used for medication on the side table next to the patient. As a seasoned MA, I could tell nothing had been done because obviously the wound was still messy, but also there was no cover on it, and there was no trash in the bin that you'd typically see from someone who had just dealt with cleaning a wound. I decided to go ahead and clean the wound myself to prevent risk of infection. There was no reason for that patient to be left that long with an open leg wound. So when I was done, I left to look for her and ask her why was the wound not clean. She boldly told me she had given the medication to the patient and was waiting a few minutes before cleaning the wound with sterile water. I was super confused about that whole statement, so I double-checked the order in the computer and there was no medications added. So I asked her to specify what medication was given. She turned white as a ghost and left without warning. I followed closely behind her, and that is when I discovered she had given the patient the antiseptic soap to drink, instead of using it to clean the wound with it as its intended purpose and as directed by the physician. When I tell you I ran, I hastily rang 911 and then proceeded to call up the physician to relay the situation. The patient had to be taken to the emergency room and had his stomach pumped. So now, in addition to having an open leg wound, he was now also being treated for poison. Yet another procedure. After everything that happened, I found out the float girl Nikki, working in the floor with us, was not an MA, but a CNA. Wow, that blew my mind that this facility hired a person who was not licensed to do this procedure or to be even working alongside us to begin with. I personally find this a common problem in the field. A bad clinic will not double check the credentials of a float, and new CNAs will sometimes be indignant and not want to admit they are not permitted to perform a task or do not know what they are doing. She merely asked to take over the trauma patient because she wanted to use it as an opportunity to get first-hand experience. But if you are not trained to do something, the trauma ward is not the place to experiment, especially at the expense of an unknowing patient. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe so I can make more. Every Monday will be a new video. If you have a story to share, please email anonmedicalstories@outlook.com. All I ask is any people in your story remain anonymous via name change. You will be completely anonymous as well. I may contact you if clarification is needed and will proofread and clean grammatical errors so it's easier to read. This isn't Reddit, and I am a frequent Redditor. It is very telling when a story is Reddit-esque. Let's keep things honest. Aside from YouTube, you can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Big thanks to the artist Ginjersnapps for working with me on this project. Please check out her work in the description below. Now on to our charity of the day. Today's mystery guest is Conservation Northwest. Founded in 1989 in Bellingham, Washington, this charity's main focus is conserving local wildlands and wildlife in Washington and British Columbia. They have a staff of 28 heads, all of whom work diligently in restoring endangered populations and their natural habitats such as grizzly bears, lynxes, wolves, very important predators to the ecosystem, and their just as important prey, the pronghorns, sage grouse, pygmy rabbits, and mule deer. Aside from restoration, they also work hard to construct and direct wildlife traffic through safe wildlife crossings to reduce the lives lost to invasive road structures and vehicular roadkill. They appear to be very transparent with their non-profit business nature. Although not having posted their 2023 to 2024 reports yet, you can view and access their April 2022 to March 2023 activity and finance report, of which they are very transparent with what makes up their funding and who are some of their larger donors. They seem to gear a lot of their donation interest towards the wealthier crowd in order to fund some of their larger projects, providing alternate donation tools and their benefits such as donating stocks, donor-advised funds, donating from an IRA, and donating property outright or through a legal will. Conservation Northwest is also hosting an annual dinner auction in Seattle sometime within the next year, where they auction items donated with a fundraising goal of $400,000 in mind, of which, if you have items you wish to donate and have auctioned for the cause, they have resources for that as well. They, of course, do have a regular donation page for those who want to donate in a simpler manner, or, of course, free volunteering opportunities to help the cause. Check out the description of this video for links for this charity, and thanks for staying to the end.